Over the weekend, we talked about price manipulation in this market. Today, the market is even worse than it was over the weekend. And one of the biggest things that I mentioned is waiting to see how markets open on Monday. And the reason why I said that is because of what we are seeing, which is a sea of red on the daily, the weekly, and even the monthly. And even on the hourly, we're starting to see some green, but for the most part, it's nothing too significant. Now, a lot of people will start to panic during this time. In fact, we could already see the fear and greed indexes hitting fearful levels, which we'll definitely talk about and address. But right now, this is what the hourly looks like. We're starting to see some nice bounces in the market. Nothing too significant just yet. The daily, the weekly, and the monthly are pretty red right now. On the weekly, for an example, HBAR is down 10.6%. We also see even XRP down as well, 11.3%. QNT down 11%. Ondo down 12.4%. ICP down 12.8%. Just across the board, it's double-digit losses. And again, this is going to scare the market. If we actually look at Bitcoin, Bitcoin is down about 6.1% on the weekly. Ethereum is down about 9.6% on the weekly as well. XRP down 11.3. On the monthly, we're down 20.3%. Bitcoin around 113.5K, Ethereum around 4,200, and XRP around $2.88. Now, the biggest thing to focus on here is the top in? And everyone keeps asking this question. Oh, is the market top in? Or maybe they don't even ask the question, because I've been reading some of the comments lately, and what I've been seeing is, oh, the top is in, the market's about to crash, we're going into a bear market, this, that, whatever. And the biggest thing that I want you guys to realize here, and the number one thing that I want to really stress, is the fact that we haven't even witnessed the full cycle for Ethereum and altcoins just yet. This has all been about Bitcoin. Bitcoin's been the main focus leading up to this point, and we talked about how we are in phase 2 of the cycle, which I do believe that we are in phase 2. I think that we are going to see Ethereum climbing higher from this point on, but we just need to get through this correction. Just like any other time in history in this market, we typically see a big correction and a wipeout right before the biggest moves of the cycle actually begin, which I'll talk about in this video as well. Now, looking at stocks with the S&P, right? Today, we could see the sell-off. Now, is this concerning at all? This sell-off down to 6,300 so far from this high of like 65 almost. Well, was it concerning back here in, this is the end of July into August 1st. We were hitting about 6,430. We ran all the way back down to about 6,200. This was a total loss of over 3.3%. Currently, we are down about roughly 2%. Is this concerning at all? No. These are corrections in the market. This is just a slight pullback, but everyone is panicking because, again, crypto's crashing, stocks are dropping, everyone's thinking the worst. We also saw ETF outflows hitting crazy highs, which we'll talk about as well. But again, the environment right now is telling us to be very bearish. And just like I've been saying over the last couple weeks, we need to make sure that we are focused on the end goal here, which is the fact that, altcoins will start to have their phase of the cycle as well. We just need to get past phase 2, which is Ethereum. We are in Ethereum's phase right now, but it's just the beginning of it. And if we think about that, right, Ethereum's beginning phase in 2020 to 2021 technically started in roughly the beginning of December. During that time, altcoins also got decimated. There was a major pullback across the board for crypto during that time as well. This time is not that different. There's definitely a lot of factors that are contributing to major changes happening around crypto, but for the most part, we're still following those phases. Outside of the S&P though, this is what the market looks like. Let me make sure that we are refreshed real quick. 3.83 trillion for the market cap of crypto. Fear and greed about 45. Now that's going off of coin market caps. We'll talk about the actual ones as well. Most of the market today, in terms of like the top gainers and losers, is there gains? I mean, there is some nice gains, but it's nothing too crazy. I mean, single digits here. In terms of losses though, we could see across the board that there is, some decent losses. Nothing too crazy just yet, but in the last 7 days, that's where you could actually see most of those significant losses in the double-digit plus territory. Again, this is not concerning to me at all. I'm not really worried at all either. And I'll go over a few things on why I'm not. So let's actually first start off with what actually happened. What is going on right now? Why are we seeing this major correction? Well, number one, let's talk about outflows. So here we have alert. Ethereum spot ETF saw $430 million in net outflows on August 19th, second highest in history. And we even have over here, BlackRock sold Ethereum, Fidelity sold Ethereum, Grayscale sold Ethereum, nobody bought Ethereum. Now, a lot of people, I noticed that a lot of people say, all right, well, look at, they're all selling, they're manipulating the market. This is retail selling the Ethereum ETFs. It's not BlackRock selling, it's not Fidelity selling, it's not Grayscale selling either. It's the same reason why I said when we start to see inflows of the ETFs, everyone just goes crazy all over X and says, oh, Larry Fink is bidding on Bitcoin. Larry Fink's buying Bitcoin. Like, no, that's not how these ETFs work. This is retail buying and selling. And in this case, retail was selling. And it's because the fear and greed. If we're looking at fear, look at this. Market sentiment is fearful now. I have been noticing the fearful posts and the comments all over my timeline over the last couple days, especially going over the weekend. The crypto fear and greed index just flipped from greed to fear as volatility shakes the market. Traders are pulling back, but history shows these moments often set up big opportunities. How do you feel today? And again, the fact that we're back into fearful levels, here you guys have Bitcoin's fear and greed index as well. And also even stocks, we have stocks open over here. Neutral territory, 55, nothing too crazy there yet. But the reason why I'm very excited about us being back into the fearful levels is because even if we look at fear and greed on CoinMarketCap's chart here, we're almost back to those points in roughly June. Okay, if we're thinking about June, we know that June wasn't the best month for crypto. Let's just go back to the cryptocurrencies list. Let me just open Bitcoin up real quick. And let me go back to the 1 month view, or actually I need to go back to the yearly. So back in June, we had a nice little run up in May, sold off all the way into the middle of June. Then towards the end of June, we actually started to bounce back. We could actually see that on this chart as well. We could see when we bottomed and when we started to bounce back. It was towards the end of June into July. Now, fear and greed, our fearful levels, or I shouldn't even say our fearful levels because it's not, right now we're in neutral on this chart, but we are technically in fearful levels going off of the Bitcoin fear and greed. But if we look at this logically, okay, this is starting to drop to the downside. We're at the lowest point that we've been at since going all the way back to June. I do think that the market is in a little bit of a panic here. Is there more level to the downside on the fear and greed chart? Yeah, sure, there could be. There could be a little bit more pain in this market, sure. But I just feel as if at this point, everyone's going to start to panic now. And even if we're thinking about this, right? At the same exact time that everyone is starting to panic, we're now starting to see more Tether being minted. We've talked about this in previous cycles as well, going back to 2021. Every single time that Tether minted Bitcoin or minted USDT, they bought Bitcoin. This case, though, they minted this on Ethereum, which is kind of crazy. Now, this was to boost liquidity amid market fluctuations. And we heard from the CEO that this was just routine inventory replenishment. This move follows a pattern of expansions with 150 million USDT transferred to Bitfinex shortly after. And we have here that analysts see it as a bullish signal, potentially stabilizing prices and boosting trader confidence as Tether's total issuance nears $120 billion. Again, we don't know where this $1 billion will go, but if we do start to see the market stabilize from this point on, then we already know exactly where that money has gone. Now, if we're thinking about this, I did make a post yesterday on X, and I was actually quoting Credible Crypto. Credible Crypto said, you're not early per se, but the biggest moves of any cycle happen in the last 10% of it, not the first 90%. So yeah, you're not early, but at the same time, the biggest and the most aggressive moves are yet to come. Now, a lot of people won't believe this. And I even said here that only a few people seem to realize this. the prices of most of this market are just hovering around prices from the beginning of the month. The sentiment in this space currently is so negative, even though Bitcoin is up 90% plus and XRP is up 400% plus in the last 12 months. It seems as though everyone is getting caught up in the short-term moves instead of looking forward. The market bottomed in April, and now we are just seeing a correction, which will lead to consolidation and expansion to the upside. Higher is coming, but most will be shaken out before we get there. Credible is 100% on point here. The largest moves of the cycle have yet to hit, but most won't experience it. Look back at 2017, 2018, or even 2020 into 2021. The market corrects and gets wiped out, and wipes out altcoin sentiment right before altcoin season hits. Be patient, don't panic, and lock in. And yes, I want you guys to realize that has happened in almost every single cycle. We see this like washout moment where almost everyone panics, majority gets shaken out, just to FOMO back in when the market recovers. Right now, do we need a lot of work to do to get back to the recovery part of the market? Yes, we do have a lot of work to do. If we're looking at Bitcoin right now, could this be a higher low scenario? Sure, it can be, but we're so close to retesting those lows from roughly the beginning of August, which is also those highs from back in May. This level here is going to be crucial for us to hold. This is 112K. Losing 112K will be a huge signal that we are going to target this blue demand zone down here at about 106K to 108K. I would love for us to avoid that level, but so far, every single level that I've outlined here that we need to hold has been broken. We broke 117.2K, then we broke 114.7K, and now we're looking at this 112K level. I would love for us to hold here. If we're looking at this on the 4-hourly, for an example, if we're looking at the 4-hour chart, so far, nothing too crazy here. We're not like building a total floor or anything like that. And by the way, if we're looking at what we want to see as a floor, go back here to where we had this nice run up in the beginning of July. We sold off. We built a floor for, May. This is actually quite some time. I mean, if we're thinking about this on the date range, this entire floor here was about 4 days and 16 hours. That's what we want to see going forward on Bitcoin right now, as we really kind of wait and see what happens. So the main thing here is maintaining the lows. Okay, we wicked as low as about 112.3K. It wasn't the craziest wick, but the main thing here is that we want to hold above 112K. We want to build a floor around this level, and then we finally get the expansion to the upside where we could start to actually flip the ranges. And the main thing that we want to see here, especially on the daily, let me remove this real quick. On the daily, what we want to see is that floor formed, and then for us to actually break above 114.7K again, and then we could really kind of reclaim that 117.2K level. This first level here is nothing too crazy, and it's not that significant. The main thing about this was holding this liquidity wick from the end of July. It would have been a good sign of strength, and it would have been, good for Bitcoin to recover. And you can see that we actually wicked down to it on Monday, but we lost it on the 19th. So, this was to be expected. Once we lost this, that we would see bearish price action, and we got that. In terms of Ethereum, I was wrong on Ethereum. I expected us to actually get a retest of these highs, hold the highs, and then retest the all-time high. That failed to happen. We actually lost that level. We hit the fair value gap on the daily. You guys can see it here. This is the fair value gap going back to roughly the beginning of August as well. So far, strong recovery, nothing too crazy just yet. We need to reclaim this high of around roughly almost 4,400. So again, still a lot of work to do here for Ethereum as well. In terms of XRP, I was wrong on XRP as well. I was expecting us to hold this lower trend line. That got invalidated, so we could wipe this off of the chart. We could actually get rid of this lower trend line. It would be great for us to regain this. We'll hold that there just for a second, but the main thing here that I'm looking at and watching is for this low to be held. This would be a higher low. So this would be that signal of strength on XRP to have that higher low in place for bullish structure to remain on XRP. But this was definitely a significant breakdown. Major loss of $2.96, which we know was resistance back in the middle of July. We did hold it as support back in the beginning of August before we had that nice run up to like $3 and almost 40 cents. And once we lost this, well, that was a big signal that, we were going lower. So after we lost that, we wicked down as low as $2 and almost 82 cents. So far, we have held this low. I would love for us to maintain this higher low, but it's all determined by what Bitcoin does next. We need to focus on Bitcoin here. And I know that that kind of goes against what we've been talking about. When we talk about the market, the main thing that I was saying was, oh, we need to focus on Ethereum here because we are in phase 2. We definitely are, but Bitcoin can change almost anything in this market. And what I mean by that is if Bitcoin starts to lose higher time frame support, all of a sudden you have a recipe for disaster. So we need to focus on these highs from going back to May holding. I would love for us to hold above that. In terms of Ethereum, I would just like for us to regain some strength here and build some momentum. And if that happens on both these charts, we should see XRP climbing higher back above $3. So right now, I'm not too worried. I'm not too concerned. Market is fearful at the same exact time that we're starting to see fresh liquidity being minted from Tether. It's just that typical push. We always see Tether doing something like this. Everyone questions, hey, where's the reserves? But we still have zero information on that. But hey, I'm not going to complain if they're going to support this recovery. It is what it is. But outside of that, the main thing to focus on here is we had price manipulation going into the weekend. Start of the week so far for stocks hasn't been the best, but I do think that we will recover on stocks as well. I do think that this will be a short-term sell-off with a corrective phase. After that, we consolidate for a little bit, and then we start to get that big break back to the upside. So I'm not too concerned. Again, the focus here is September. So with that being said, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys definitely like, subscribe, turn notifications on because I'm free content. You guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord in the description below. And with that being said, guys, it's been Nick. Thanks for watching. Peace out.